Kutcher.
Thank you, Speaker. Honourable Senators, I rise today to speak in support of the development of a national anti-hate action plan that was announced in the 2023 budget. I want to thank my colleagues for speaking out on this issue today, and I want you to know it's a privilege to be able to stand here with you. I, like many Canadians, am significantly concerned about the rise of hateful rhetoric, including public displays of hate speech towards 2SLGBTQI+ people in Canada. In September, demonstrations held across this country amplified discriminatory, harmful, and false messaging about 2SLGBTQ+ adults, youth, and children. Most of these messages contain disinformation that has been regurgitated for decades to advance political agendas that resist social progression and respect for basic human rights. One happened right outside my office, and I and my staff were dismayed by the slogans being chanted and the signs being held. Following the demonstration, Senator Cormier and I filmed and released a video on social media denouncing these hateful messages. We shared a message of kindness, compassion, and support for 2SLGBTQI+ Canadians and their families. We spoke about the rights of all Canadians, regardless of whom they love and how they identify. On Twitter, our message of allyship was met with some of the most hateful responses I have personally experienced. Although there were many, I will share one comment about me left on Senator Cormier's post, and I will censor certain words and ask you, colleagues, to use your imagination to fill in the blanks. And let me assure you, your imagination may not go to the places that the actual words did. And I quote, "Look at these two blank clowns. Just absolute blank mongers. Stan, you are the dirtiest, filthy, blanking pedophile. You are a vile, worthless, blanking loser. You know it too. You know you are an absolute piece of blanking blank." End of quote. Colleagues, according to the United Nations, hate speech is, quote, "any kind of communication that attacks or uses discriminatory language with reference to a person or group based on their religion, ethnicity, nationality, race, color, descent, gender, or other identity factor." The Canadian Criminal Code defines public incitement of hatred as, quote, "communication, statements in any public place that incites hatred against any identifiable group where such incitement is likely to lead to a breach of the peace," end quote. This comment on our video was only one of many that met these criteria. I am deeply concerned about two things. One, the digital technology that allows this kind of hateful language to be posted in the public space without regulation, without consequences, and perhaps even encouraged. Indeed, my staff registered complaints about a number of similar posts, only to be told that they were considered to be within normal limits of the use of this platform. Colleagues, really? This type of hate speech is considered to be normal? Secondly, I'm deeply concerned about 2SLGBTQI+ youth and young people who are exposed to this abuse and the potential it has to damage their well-being and mental health. Think of how you would feel if such abuse was directed towards who you are as a person. I'm certain that no one in this chamber will consider such verbal slagging to be anything but damaging. Numerous research studies have found that lesbian, gay, and bisexual individuals are more likely to experience depression, anxiety, suicidality, and substance abuse than their heterosexual peers. As a psychiatrist who has robust professional knowledge in this domain, I can safely say that much of this mental torment is the result of prejudice, discrimination, hate speech, and harassment that they face both online and in person. Targeted hate speech is spread and repeated with the end goal of preventing 2SLGBTQI plus people from freely participating in our society. Colleagues, it denies their identity. It turns them into caricatures that are deemed to be less than human. We are only too aware of how the process of dehumanizing others turns out. It is the false touchstone that leads to discrimination, violence, and even worse. Those who post hate speech online are telling us that some of our children, our family members, our friends, our colleagues, our fellow citizens are not worthy of our respect, that they're not worthy of our love, that they are not worthy, period. Colleagues, this is simply wrong. This is not what we want our Canada to in any way condone. As leaders, we cannot stand idly by and let this happen. We cannot let hatred fill our streets and become the norm in our social discourse. We have a responsibility to act, and we must use that responsibility fully and vigorously. We cannot remain silent, because silence can mean consent. And silence tells those who are spreading hatred that they can do whatever damage they choose to do, that there are no consequences for hateful and harmful behavior. So I will repeat to you here some of the words Senator Cormier and I spoke online several weeks ago. Quote, "Children and youth have a right to safe and nurturing environments where they are supported by their peers and their caretakers at home and at school," end quote. And, quote, "All people deserve to be loved, accepted, and cherished, not despite, but regardless of who they love, how they identify, and how they express themselves," end quote. Honourable Senators, I do not think that any platform in Canada should tolerate the promotion or spread of hate speech. I do not think that any Canadian should be subjected to hateful attack for any reason, including the color of their skin, their place of origin, who they love, and how they identify themselves. That is why I support the development of a national anti-hate action plan. Colleagues, in my opinion, every person living in Canada deserves to live a life free from prejudice and discrimination, where they are free to be who they are, where they are free to love who they love. Thank you.